Greetings to everyone attending Digital Media India 2022. My name is Michael Taylor. I'm Sales Director for Stibo DX, and my company is proud to be a sponsor once again for this conference. And it is our honor to have Suresh Vijayaraghavan, the Chief Technical Officer at the Hindu, with us today. The Hindu has more than 140 years of history, and along its journey of existence, they've amassed many millions of assets that come in the form of photos, videos, text, PDFs, you name it. And my company, Stibo DX, offers a content creation and publishing platform along with integrated best-in-class solutions for digital asset management. And that platform has been introduced at the Hindu, and we've invited Mr. Suresh to share a few insights about this tightly integrated connection between content management and digital asset management. After he makes some comments, I'll be back with you to share some more details about how our Q technology brings value to media houses. And please feel free to type questions into the chat. We should have some time for that. Also, feel free to visit the Stibo DX virtual booth within the conference platform. There you can download our brochures. You can even send a chat message. But without further ado, Suresh, please take it away. Welcome.
Thanks, Michael, for having me on board today. Let me share. My screen is visible, right?
It is.
Yeah. So before I get into the actual presentation part itself, first I thought I would set the context for the word integrated that we use here. So for us, when we say an integrated DAM, the first thing that comes to us is that it should be able to work across all asset types. So being a content publisher, we produce text, video, images, audio, as well as our published pages and editions. So an asset management system should be able to handle all the assets in an integrated manner for us. That's the key thing first. The second thing is it should be able to seamlessly work with all the channels with which we actually reach our subscribers. So as we move into the digital world, our print editions are still there. So this system should actually work both with our print editions as well as our digital editions. And in the digital, whichever channel we use to reach the subscriber, it should be able to integrate with all these channels. That's the second part. And as a publisher, we have multiple publications or products, as we call them. And an asset management system has to help us integrate across these publications, because content creators might be able to creating content that is being used in more than one publication. They might be working in more than one publication. So this system should seamlessly integrate across these publications. And assets are being created internally or being also sourced externally, right? So there are various sources from which all these asset types comes to us. A DAM solution should be able to integrate with all these sources, whether we create the assets ourselves or we get it from agencies or we get it from third parties. That seamless integration with the sources is another key part. At the end, an asset has its own life cycle, right? Each of these assets that we speak about, whether it's text, video, images, it has an asset life cycle from the time an asset is created, published, used, and archived. This whole life cycle needs to be handled through the DAM system. So when I say an integrated digital asset management system, these are all the various domains in which I think integration needs to be considered. So the first part, with that context, what that word integration actually means to us for this presentation today. So if you look at from a workflow standpoint, so from the time an asset is being created and it is submitted to be used in a specific publication or product, or sometimes in the middle, there might be an approval workflow in place. Somebody checks and approves that asset. So we should be able to seamlessly handle that workflow. And various sources from which we receive feeds in terms both images, text, and videos, we should be able to consolidate that in a single place. And after that, as the content creators use these assets, say for example, when we talk about the multimedia storytelling as a concept, I would like to take text, I would like to use images and videos to create those stories. I should be able to find the assets easily from the system. That's one important part. And an asset from its native form can have multiple variants. Say we might have an image that comes in high resolution that's being used on a print version. Might be we create a lower resolution version that's used on digital, or we have specific version that's used on mobile and other platforms. So all these versions and the managing those variances within the system is also a crucial component. But of course, as I said, when we talk about multiple publications, multiple channels, users may also wanted to group the assets in specific groups or collections so that we can know how these assets are interconnected and interrelated, where they are being used. So those understanding those relationships should also be easier when you're talking about an asset management system. And a DAM as an independent solution should be able to easily work with our print publishing system as well as online publishing system. So these are all the key points when you look at an asset management solution from a workflow standpoint. Second thing, content creators has to collaborate, right? Photographers create photos and video editors create video, and editorial staff and reporters create text, and in certain situations it might be the same person creating all this for in a multimedia storytelling world. So they should be able to collaborate very seamlessly, and especially when a geographically distributed environment. So that global access to journalists and content creators, the platform should enable that, and they should be able to share it with others so that they can, as story is being created from contribution coming from multiple people, they should be able to share the content and work together. And as I said earlier, multiple publications and multiple channels, we should be able to use that through the asset management system. And of course, we also have lots of syndication services that's using our content. So we should be able to share with them in a seamless manner. And when I spoke about variants, right? If possible, a system should automatically create those variances for us so that when a video comes in, it automatically creates a small preview for that, or it creates a fixed image format that can be used when the video is being displayed as a static content on a website. And when assets are being created, managed, and used across publication by multiple people, the most important aspect is to manage rights. So when I say rights, there are two types of rights. Rights in terms of access control, who will have access to what, as well as rights in terms of copyright information, how can I use an asset and to what extent we can use it. Is there an embargo on that? Is there an expiration date after which we cannot use? Some of the time the asset comes with the usage restriction that you can use it only for one time. So we should be able to manage rights in a very seamless fashion in the asset management system. And also we should be able to understand how an asset has been used and how people are engaged with the asset that's lying in the environment. So this aspect is also very critical for us. Of course, now we are talking about numerous assets, millions in numbers, sitting inside a black box. And unless otherwise we have a means to actually work with this in a seamless manner, it will not be useful, right? So today, AI is the keyword, and any asset management system that does not work on top of an AI engine is actually useless. So we should look at AI-driven image and video analysis so that it can actually create tags dynamically by looking at the content that is there. So the metadata can be automatically enriched, keyword generation can be automatic, and it can also look at which keywords are having more value or more load when it comes to rendering content based on searches. And also automated speech to text tagging, because if I upload a video into the system, it should be able to convert that speech into text and also tag that back. And system like this should have a very seamless API interface where we can actually integrate this with all the other systems that we use as well as what our syndication partners would use, so that we can actually share content across. So this API framework should also have an AI integration so that when we search, the search can actually use an AI engine to bring the right content back to the end users, because we are talking about searching across millions of assets. Of course, the primary purpose which somebody looks for an asset management system is to remain as a central archive, right? Everything sits in one single system. so that we don't need to worry about integrating many things just for the asset management part alone. And of course, it has to manage scale. So as of today, we are talking about Indo itself has more than 80 million assets sitting on the asset management system. And it is going to only double and triple as we go forward. And all of this should be available as a searchable archive in terms of not only the digital editions as well as our print editions. So end of the day, when I say it's an integrated asset management system, we're talking about a one-stop solution where everything comes from one single, not only from a single vendor, also as a single information system to us, so that within the asset management system itself, we need not worry about integration work, but we need to only look at integrating this with all the other publishing systems that we have. So these are the key aspects, Michael, if you ask me what is important for a publisher when they look at from an asset management system.
Suresh, thank you very much. I will
stop sharing. Yeah.
I will continue on with more glimpses into this system and talk a little bit about how we're really trying to offer value to media companies such as the Hindu. And I just also want to recognize that, you know, they're among this great set of clients that we have. And it's all about us talking with our partners about goals and emerging business strategy, because it helps influence our development. And we are also very proud at Stibo DX to say that we get recognition for what we engineer. Case in point here is the industry magazine Crest Pro, their analysis of the 100 biggest media brands in digital newspapers and magazines in the German-speaking countries. The result of their analysis was that Stibo DX is ranked #1 in all 3 of those categories. And one of the reasons that we believe we ended up in the first position in all 3 categories is that we're fulfilling a critical need, like Suresh was talking about publishers needing a better connection to metadata-enriched asset management and the core content management system. So of course, this is all about making your audio, video, PDFs, text, you name it, searchable and accessible. And that brings value to the story creation process and the enrichment of content. A few months ago, the University of Missouri and the Reynolds Journalism Institute published the findings of an 18-month-long project to assess the status of the preservation of digital-born news content across the industry. And they are essentially arguing and demonstrating why preserving your company's digital assets should be top of mind of media executives. And I'm highlighting an excerpt from that report that says the Stibo DX Q product is the only one in the marketplace where you can get this tightly integrated connection between digital asset management and that core content management system that newsrooms are using. But if I summarize that Q platform that Suresh and I are explaining, it's about a browser-based platform where we're making it easy to create modern and engaging storytelling formats at the base level, right? Where it supports both print and digital. And by design, the platform is open and extensible, right? To connect and integrate to the systems that are important to your business. And then bringing in these best of breed digital asset management solutions that also simultaneously help you properly manage the rights and know when and where assets have been used. And then we offer a headless CMS, right? That decouples content from presentation. And we have an API that supplies content as language neutral JSON data, freeing you to use the language and technology you prefer for your front end component. So then what we're talking about is this open platform that has this Well, number one, it has a recognition that no two companies are the same, right? But Q has this unified user interface that overlaps content creation, digital asset management, print production, perhaps e-paper. You decide the components of Q that you need, and as well as the channels of distribution. No doubt these can change over time, but it's that editorial experience that creates this unified UI, no matter if we're talking about creating digital stories, finding assets, putting content on a print page. That's what this is all about. But let's look at this from a story level. In this example, we have a web version of a story that we could call the base, right? It's where we're starting from, the base variant. And from there, an inheritance model of inheriting pieces from that to automatically move to other channels that we also want to distribute the same content to, because we might be producing something that's specific perhaps to a mobile app. Maybe we want to put it on Facebook. What's right for your business? Should there be a column here for that print variant for Twitter, for Instagram? It's based on what your business needs. But I want to also explain a little bit about the series of destinations of content that we call playout. And that playout is, you might think of it as like a toolbar, but it's immediately informing the journalist where this content has gone and where it's destined to go, thanks to a great UX design. And certainly templates and/or automation can be built into this multi-channel publishing approach. If we look at it again further, this playout bar that I'm talking about is right here along the top. And I have this story about Texas barbecue because I'm a boy from Texas, but it's this green illuminated icon here at the top left that tells me immediately as I'm coming here that I'm looking at the website variant of this story. For maybe in this example, we have a company with multiple brands or products, and we're looking at brand A here. And this website version was published 12 minutes ago. And then there's a Twitter variant, also a part of this play out of this content. And it was published 4 minutes ago. And in the works is something for Facebook and a version for print. Also, this content for the brand A website has been published. But if I click on brand B, we could be using this same story for a different product, a different site. And all of the content here is grayed out, if you will, the text. It's indicating, again, from that UX, that all of that is being inherited, as it indicates right here in the playout bar. So any changes made to that base version will carry over, right? Any and all changes. But what if in brand B, and notice we have a different workflow status on this, what if brand B, by the style of that product, it needs to be differentiated somehow? We need a different headline. Well, Q is ready for that. And the UI, the interface, is clearly distinguishing that for the journalists looking at this. This headline that's no longer dim, that we've changed, no longer inherits, but the rest of the content does and can carry over. So these localized changes can happen on the individual element level, including paragraph by paragraph through this content. And if someone is to find this story on a search or in a list within Q, I'm just pointing out here that this play out of the story, these destinations, are a part of the metadata, and it's sort of powerful information to lend to the viewer within the platform of what's happening with this content. But hey, we're talking about digital asset management here, right? Let's get back to this topic. That unified UI across all things Q that I was talking about. we're back in this story, and on the side, you can pull out a panel where you can search the archive and then just drag and drop a video, a photo into your story. Also, if you wanted to do a more extensive search of archived assets, we could do that outside of the story as well. And there's sophisticated searching. There are these channels of assets based on type, based on source, things like that. If you find something for the story here that you're working on, again, we're working in browser tabs, so you still have that drag and drop capability to take that over to the story. It could not be easier. And also, there was a mention of, collections, right? The workflow benefit of the ability to group assets together. I created a collection called My Texas Barbecue Favorites, and content items that you find anywhere can be dragged into this collection. It happens to be a list of, or a collection of 5 images. But again, this facilitates organization and collaboration because I can share this with other people. And I often think about how great this would be for photo and visual editors, but the use cases here are innumerable. When you find an asset as well, we want to clearly show you where and when it's been used. This second image that I'm highlighting here has been published twice in the past. Moving away from my story example, I wanted to highlight this other advantage about previewing content. I'm previewing a PDF here, and Q wants to clearly expose other sorts of related items, other assets that are related to the one I'm looking at, which I think is tremendously powerful. Yet another example of that, I'm reading a wire agency story, and Q is exposing images that are related to this same story. So again, it's all about how can we better bring all of the elements together so that editors can work more efficiently. If I, now that you've seen just a bit of the interface, I wanted to talk about this extensibility. Suresh also mentioned this concept of making sure that we're able to tie into things that we want. All of these different areas of Q that I'm highlighting here, I put a color over them just to emphasize that the customer has the ability to alter or enhance the Q editor, because we want our clients to have the chance to connect to systems, to tools, to data sources, but again, help the journalists work smarter and more efficiently. And just, there's so many examples of this, but that could be that idea of auto tagging as the writing process is happening. It could be that we want to expose real-time analytics on content that has been published so that we can make smart judgments around what needs to happen with this content based on play that needs to be better than it is, or hey, this is doing really good in our organization. But those are some of the highlights that I wanted to sort of review to showcase how we're trying to bring these ideas of content creation and digital asset management together, making it a more powerful solution. So if there are questions, please let us know. There's a question about how long does it take to integrate the system? Do you have a separate team to handle this? So I'm happy for Suresh to add any comments here, but this idea of the digital asset management system, I should mention that in 2019, Stibo DX acquired a company called Digital Collections that was a great company on its own, but we saw a need in the marketplace to have all this tight connection that I've been talking about here. So we've been in a process of merging what they had as a product called digital collections into Q. And it is a journey that we're on, transforming our tool to bring these things together. And just as your company, transformation never stops, right? So we're on a continuous path here. But would you have any thoughts about how this worked for your business?
Yeah. So actually, to answer in terms of timeline, we started with the digital asset management migration initially, and then we later decided to go for the complete Q suite, right? So the DAM migration alone took us about 9 months to complete. But while we were doing the DAM migration, the other integration of the migration to Q also started. So on the whole, I think it's about 18 months for the completely integrated setup that you just showcased with the content management system, the print system, as well as the DAM integrated together. When we had moved from our existing platform, new platform, it took about 18 months. So we had our own internal team, and we worked with the corresponding professional services team of Stibo for this whole implementation.
There's also a great question about AI integration, and in what ways does AI make a difference in your system? I would, please.
Yeah. No, I think AI is totally not up to India. I don't think that's a right assumption. I think AI is making great ways. Of course, for the publishing industry, if you take, I think it's in the nascent stages. But from a DAM standpoint, I think AI plays a key role from the ingestion point itself. When the asset comes into the system in terms of automatic tagging of keywords or collating them together in specific groups, that where AI plays which I know the QDAM system actually does this on one part. And second part is when you're actually going to use this as an archival system and connect back for archival search. Again, there AI plays a key component. When user comes in for conversational search, it can bring in the appropriate assets back. So out of the mind, I can say that when it comes into the system, you need to have AI playing a key role. Also, when you retrieve data out of the system, also AI has to play a key role.
I think I would totally agree with you. There's all kinds of AI processes that could be run, that you could push this content through to get really intriguing enrichment on the metadata around these assets. So there are things like item recognition within images that could be very important to your organization. It could be face recognition that, although it doesn't know who the people are, that could identify a face over and over again and put an ID to it. And then that ID matches an identity in your tags of important people that you want to keep track of in your organizations, much like our smartphones do these days. But I think there's a lot that we could engage with a customer about the area in which how could we use AI and the many different pieces of it to enhance the metadata within our system and move forward with that as a company.
Yeah.
Can the solution support content in other languages besides English? Absolutely. Will the recommendation, etc., work well? There is no language limitation within the Q platform. So if we're talking about perhaps tying into other technologies, that might need to be taken into account. But in Q itself, there are no limitations around language.
And there's a question that talks whether there's a trial version.
A trial version of Q. Well, we could talk about how we could showcase some of those options for you. It's not so easy to give you just here's a trial system to use for a day or two, but reach out to me, mwt@stibodx.com, and we can talk about possibilities. I think we've hit the the end of our time slot here.
Yeah. Yes.
And I appreciate your time so much with being with us. I always like to follow what the Hindu is doing, and I look forward to traveling soon, being able to see you in person and participate in this event in real life next year.
Thanks, Michael, and thanks, IFRA, for having me on board today. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, WAN-IFRA. Bye-bye.